All right, I'm live. It's good to be with you all.
Good morning.
Good morning. Says State
It's
Representative
State
Hart.
Rep. Yes, ma'am, it is. I'm getting an echo, so if I talk over you, that's the reason.
No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We are working.
Representative, you got Rodney Ellis, County Commissioner in Harris County. Which rep is that? I can't catch that voice with the echo. My friend.
Okay, stand by,
How
everybody.
you doing, Rodney? Good. Yes.
Thank you for that.
Hardaway?
Stand by. Just mute everybody.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Brother, there's far too many of you die. You know we can't find to bring some love here today.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Keep Up Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. Well, here we are once again dealing with a traffic stop in which a black person in America has been killed by the police. Let's talk about this on Keep Up Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. We've got a lot to talk about today. What is going on with the Tyree Nichols case in Memphis, Tennessee? We've got a couple of people who can really help us to deal with this. Tennessee State Representative G.A. Hardaway, and Memphis attorney, one of a child of Rainbow Push, actually, used to head up our youth division in Memphis. Of course, attorney Jay Bailey, also known as Javier. Love that name, too. And then, of course, Reverend Jackson is going to be joining us. What happened? What happened? And why did this young man not receive any care? You know what, Jeremy, we have to get Dr. Damon Arnold on, the former head of the Illinois Department of Public Health. I'll send you his number because he's going to talk to us about how critical it was that he received care and how devastating it was for him not to have received it. It was more than 20 minutes, as he's kicked in the head, kicked in the stomach, all over his body. It's quite shocking. And his mother, just expressing such a well of Christian compassion, is praying for the officers and their families because they're part of the community. They have wives, they have husbands, they have partners, they have children. You can only imagine how they must be feeling and how they're being treated now. There's just a lot going on. So we got a lot to talk about. 29-year-old Memphis resident, FedEx employee, skateboarder, photographer, someone who is known to be just a generous spirit, really a true artist. He was pulled over for a traffic stop by an unmarked vehicle. So you don't even know who that is. And where you have high rates of crime throughout the United States, certainly you have a lot of fear that's being filtered through our communities. He didn't know who was pulling him over, I'm sure. And you can see the only person who did not fight back, the only person who was respectful was Tyree Nichols. So let's talk about that, everybody. Let's talk about that. Let's look at these 5 now former police officers. Let's not separate them from the police department because when they did this, they were police officers. Don't say, no, they used to be. No, at the time, that's what they were. And they were acting under the cover of the badges, their badges. So let's talk about this today. 866-594-HOPE, 866-594-4673. Let's talk about the Tyree Nichols case. He'll be funeralized on Wednesday. What will all of this mean? The city's top cop, C.J. Davis, described the conduct captured in these 4 videos as heinous, reckless, and inhumane. And there's 4 videos. President Joe Biden weighed in. He said that he was outraged and called what is seen in the videos horrific. But what about the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act? Is there going to be any movement on that? We got a lot to talk about today on Keep Up Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. I want you all to call us and let us know what your thoughts are about this particular case and so many others. And Breonna Taylor and Philando Castile. We can just keep on going. And that's the tragedy of all of this. We can just keep on going. Back with more of Keep Up Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson in just a few minutes.
Brother, brother, there's far too many of you dying.
Your opinion counts. 1-866-59. Reverend Jackson? Hey, Daddy, how you doing?
Wonderful.
Okay, let me tell you who we have here. We have your former youth director of Rainbow Push in Memphis, Attorney Javier Bailey, Jay Bailey. And we have the Right Reverend State Representative G.A. Hardaway. He and Commissioner Rodney Ellis have had quite the reunion on the phone right here. And then, of course, we've got Reverend Jeanette Wilson and Dr. Damon Arnold. Reverend Dr. Arnold, of course, everyone, he is the former head of the public health system, the former head of the Department of Public Health for the state of Illinois. And he's also a military veteran, and he can talk to us about what the denial of care meant. And there were certain things, just, of course, as a military man that he saw, because he said there was someone else who shot the first shot. He said, where is he? And he was a white guy, the white officer. Got a lot to talk, got a lot of ground to cover today. And so we're going to do that. Reverend Jackson, why don't you say hello to your guests?
Well, Reverend Bailey, how are you guys?
Hey, good morning.
So good to hear your voice.
Wonderful to hear you.
Good morning, Reverend. How you doing?
Damon Arnold, how you today, sir?
I'm doing fine, and God bless you, and thank you for your leadership and your movements and the civil rights. We wouldn't even be talking about this topic if you weren't on this podium doing what you do. So thank you for your service.
It is a matter of consciousness, you know. If our consciousness is low, so our responsibility is low. Then give you more to you, ma'am.
Oh, good morning to you. Hi, Reverend. Daddy, how you doing this morning?
All right, ma'am.
You sound well. Keep that energy up, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Keep that energy up. That keeps you sounding real strong. You sound great today.
Morning, Reverend Jackson. State Rep Hardaway.
Hey, man, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, and I wish you a blessed and happy New Year.
I'm coming down there tomorrow.
And you're the only reason I'm going to stay over instead of going back to Nashville.
Oh, my word.
You all in session, by the way? Yeah, we kicked it off a week or 2 weeks ago, and we're going to head back up and get back at it tomorrow night.
Okay.
We'll try to lay out some of these bills.
Okay, let me ask the gentleman. Attorney Bailey, can you give us a synopsis of what these 4 videos showed us? And then I'd like to pivot to State Representative Hardaway and then Dr. Arnold.
Sure.
And then you, Commissioner Ellis. But of course, Reverend, we're coming to you first. Reverend?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Daddy, I need you to be a little louder.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I think it's your phone. It's not you. You sound
Yes,
great.
ma'am.
Just so that you know, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
You all don't be swayed by that. He doesn't give me all that dap. Are you kidding me? He is showing out and showing off for y'all today. I got it.
You're doing a great job at it,
Yeah.
Go ahead, Reverend.
Right.
I love it.
Yeah, me too. Would you all stay with me?
Yes, ma'am.
Please. Otherwise, he's fighting me every step of the way. And I said Parkinson's. They got quite a foe in him. He won't listen to anything anybody says. It's all him.
Since he the 2 words can keep peace on earth. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. It's not keeping peace with me. I'm turning into my mother. Wow!
Stand by.
Well, stand by. We're coming up, everybody. Daddy, I'm coming right to you, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
You're listening to Hope Alive Word. Reverend Jesse Jackson. Call 1-866-594. Hey, girl, it's pleather. That's 1-866. Pleather. It's not real leather. 4673.
will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out. You will not be able to lose yourself on Skag and skip out.
The great Gil Scott Heron. The revolution will not be televised. It will not be televised. And so let's talk about what happened with Tyre Nichols, 29-year-old FedEx worker, skateboarder, photographer, someone who really sought peace in his life. The only person, when he was pulled over for a traffic stop, that behaved peaceably. Why is it that so many black people, whenever we get stopped by the police for traffic stops, how is it that we end up dead? Why don't you talk to me about that today? Call me at 866-594-HOPE, 866-594-4673. 5 black police officers, Tadarius Bean, Demetrius Haley, Emmett Martin III, Desmond Mills Jr., and Justin Smith were fired after an internal departmental investigation found them to be, quote, directly responsible for the beating. But what about the other person who tased? What about him? And if they were white officers, would this have happened as swiftly? A lot of people have a lot of questions, but the peaceful protests are persisting and people want some answers. This Scorpion investigation group has been disbanded, but will they be reformulated under another name? It's a spirit that courses through so many of these police officers, through the police departments, that really is controlling all of this. So we've got a lot to talk about today. Reverend Jackson, what was your reaction when you heard about the video, and did you see the video?
To me, it was black on and black is immediate jail time. I just had black time. Like it's that black another time. There's almost nothing. It's black on black.
Reverend, we're having the same problem that we had last week. When we don't bring you up on the radio, we hear every word. But when we do have you on the radio, we're hearing every other word. We've got okay.
It struck us being black on black not that much different. It's a goon squad. It's called the Black Goon Squad.
Black Goon Squad.
They're not community, and their culture them from the white person. It was very different.
Why does that happen?
There was a white kid out his home. They was behaving. You know that, right? They was behaving with a white guy. And I'm interested to know, I guess, how many white men are by goon squads.
Well, Reverend, let's do this. Let's get to Attorney Jay Bailey so that he can give us an overview of what was seen. Everyone was really waiting in anticipation, and they were sick. And it's interesting that they have not shown this the full video again. Somebody's calling.
I can't see.
Okay. All right. No worries. Sorry, hon. Okay. So, well, then let me turn that around because we're all on a new computer system. But Attorney Bailey, what did we see on Friday night?
Let me say this. I think that Reverend Jackson's characterization of the Scorpion unit as being a goon squad is exactly what it was. What we saw was
okay, one moment. Attorney Bailey, we couldn't hear you. We could not understand you. Everything got garbled. Okay, again. You said Reverend
now?
Yes, now we can. And now we can understand you. You said Reverend Jackson's characterization of this as the goon squad.
Goon squad?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's absolutely an accurate characterization. And what we saw was a young man who was in his own neighborhood. His mother's home was 3 or 4 houses down from where he was accosted. And he was pulled over on what in the law we call a pretextual stop, meaning they said he was reckless driving, but the police director says that they viewed it and viewed over and over again, and they can't see any reckless driving. And so this young man of 29 years old is pulled over, and immediately the police are at a heightened level of aggression. Now, in the law, this is all over the United States, we have what we call a force continuum. What that means is that they're supposed to start at the lowest level of aggression, and it should only escalate if the detainee, it's Mr. Nichols in this case, escalates it. But like you said, Santia, he immediately said, "Excuse me, I don't understand. What did I do wrong?" He was very respectful. He was not aggressive. And what we saw was the police drag a man out of his car and immediately push him to the ground. And so they went from being, it went from a traffic stop to as if they were taking down a guy who just shot at. I believe, and I think most of this community here believes, that there was another reason for that stop. It appeared to be very personal. I don't have any evidence of that, but having handled numerous cases of this nature in Memphis and Arkansas and Mississippi, I've seen several cases like this, and I'm just going to tell you that there was something else going on there. And but nonetheless, I think you also stated that, and correctly, that there was a white officer that was a part of the initial stop. And I watched that video over and over and over again. And again, like you said, we don't see the white officer. He's not arrested. He's not charged with anything, but he was a part of the initial stop. And I think there needs to be some explanation of that as well.
Absolutely. And that is not original to me. Let me before I bring in State Representative Hardaway. State Representative Hardaway, I was speaking with this military veteran. Indeed, there's no more esteemed physician in the United States, and certainly in our state, than the former director of our Department of Public Health in the state of Illinois, Dr. Damon Arnold. And so he looks at this not just as a physician, but he sees situations like these as a military veteran, someone who has been in combat. What did you see, Dr. Arnold? And what about the administration of care? What about all of this? What did you see?
I wanted to reach out and say, Rawan Wells and Rodney Wells, stepfather, that was Tyree's mother. Stepfather were spectacular when they were giving their interviews. I felt that they had such a great impact in what they were saying. And Benjamin Crump, Attorney Crump, is always there, trying to help with these cases and make sure justice is brought forward. So I really have a very strong, warm place in my heart for them, and my, the condolences for their loss as well. But when I was serving in Iraq, you would face a court-martial for breaking the rules of engagement, even if you were detained enemy combatant, who you would beat like that. They violated the Constitution and his civil rights and liberties. Actually, when I was watching the video, it reminded me of what a lynching must have looked like at the hands of white supremacists. It was actually a crucifixion, a modern-day crucifixion. And Tyreek was totally in control of his emotions. I'm trying to go home. He repeatedly called for his mother. This wasn't a person who was out of his mind, out of control. So medically, I could say, just by listening to the words that he said, he was not any hallucinogenic agent. He was very coherent. He was trying to de-escalate the situation when these aggressive policemen grabbed him and knocked him unconscious. You know, it's ironic that Scorpions is an acronym that stands for Street Crimes Operations to Restore Peace in Our Neighborhoods. Could you imagine a word scorpion used to talk about restoring peace?
Hmm.
This is an illness that is pervasive in the health, you know, within the police department throughout the country. And we have got to get away from that. And I know you wanted to talk about the medical issues later, but this is absolutely something in Iraq. If I were in combat, we don't have rules of engagement for our police, which we sorely need in this country.
Well, see, I just want to know the police beating, Reverend. Just hold on one moment, Reverend. The police beating concluded at 8:36, according to the video, and 5 minutes later, the paramedics arrived on the scene. The paramedics asked Nichols at 8:47, 11 minutes later, what drugs he took. He was unable to speak and he was gurgling. For another 10 minutes, they stood by, Reverend, as he was twitching on the pavement. As he was twitching on the pavement. What does it mean when you see someone twitching on the pavement after that kind of meeting? And at 8:57, only then did they start, 21 minutes later? They began rendering some kind of aid, and then the ambulance arrived at 9 o'clock. When you see someone twitching on the pavement, what does that mean? What can one assume, Dr. Arnold?
You know, there are two things. One is that he had extensive head trauma and potentially neck injuries as well. And when you have neck injuries, you do not raise someone up and sit them up. You know, you put a neck brace on to try to preserve their life because you may have caused a fracture in the cervical spine, which can end your life very easily. So we don't know what this, you know, the total physical damage that was done to him, even though they're doing a forensic autopsy on him to make sure that they capture all the things that happened to his body. But he was beat among the head kick and punched in the head and neck region, and then hit on the back with a baton multiple times. And this is for someone who is about 150 pounds, as his mother mentioned, $150. It's incredible that he was able to sustain that much punishment and torture and still to persist and go forward. He normally a person who is 6'3" should be weighing somewhere between 176 to 216 pounds at 6'3". But he also had Crohn's disease. And Crohn's disease is a devastating disease. I treated many patients with this when I was going through my training and then subsequent to that. And it is a very, very painful disease. It's a debilitating disease. It causes malabsorption. You don't pick all the nutrients up, the fats and the carbohydrates you normally would, can lead to even further weight loss. But it affects multiple organs in the body: the heart, the lungs, the eyes, the gallbladder, the liver, the kidneys, the endocrine system, you know, your musculoskeletal system, and your blood. So he had extensive internal bleeding, which means that he was beaten like a piñata, like his mother was saying. This thing that is unconscionable, to beat someone almost to death, and then to have paramedics show up who wait at least 30 minutes from the timing of it to have any form of intervention where they bring a stretcher out. That is malpractice. No question about it. But it's not malpractice. It is a breaking of your humanity for you to stand there and watch someone being killed in front of you and not intervene after taking an oath, not only to serve and protect, but to render aid to someone who is being beaten to death as a citizen in this country.
Wow. Tennessee State Representative G.A. Hardaway. I wanted to get all of that out to cue it up for you. We've got about 4 minutes, but of course you'll get 5 minutes. You'll get more time on the other side of the break. What do you see? I mean, legislative remedy? I mean, your reaction to this?
My first reaction was just pure outrage. And I had to catch myself in my public comments so I didn't add fuel to the fire. But then I started to think about advocacy and what needed to be legislated in order to ensure that this doesn't happen again. Jay Bailey and I both have sons around the same age. So, you know, it struck me right in the heart. And I've got a son that likes to skateboard, and he's artistic. So the sunset and the thing that really broke my heart was when the mom was reciting how she and her husband would be greeted when young Nichols would come home. And that was hot parents. I mean, this is the child we're talking about, the young man we're talking about. And yet, when that blue rage ensued at the end of that car chase, it looked like a prison riot, criminal gangs out of the taking revenge on and discipline on a gang member. I'm a member of the House of Representatives since 2007. When I first came in as I was assigned to a committee that gave oversight to the Department of State. And I've seen videos like that, and that's what kicked in for me. The only time I've seen that type of brutality unchecked and no one intervenes, no one renders aid, was watching those videos of prison riots and prison gangs exacting their unique style of justice on prison gang members.
Reverend Jackson?
Is that
To this.
I have in mind, and it starts off with mental health care, and I'm sure the good doctor can tell you, PTSD in combat situations is comparable to what law enforcement goes through every day. They don't have tours of active duty. They do it every day. We've got to do a better job of evaluating who we're hiring, whether they're suited to the job, whether the job suits them. Once we set that psychological, emotional well-being baseline, we need to check it annually. We need to know who we're sending out every day, every night, with a badge that authorizes them to take your liberty or your life at their discretion.
Reverend Jackson, I heard you trying to get in.
From hundreds such here, police these goons for more white than black. These goons for have a mission. That can have a mission. Their mission to use all potential. They use the bigger.
You know what,
Like-
Reverend? I think, Reverend, I think I have a remedy for this. Speak for a couple of seconds, pause. Speak for a couple of seconds, pause, because there's something that's going on with your phone. Okay?
I directly connect to the department. Somebody needs about real time.
You know what, everyone, I want you to call us at 866-594-HOPE, 866-594-4673. Tennessee State Representative G.A. Hardaway is going to talk to us about legislative remedies. I mean, what can we do? I mean, how did this happen? And to show you, Reverend Jackson, generally we have an audience from all over, but today we have people tuning in from Puerto Rico, from Cameroon, from Spain, people all over the world, Egypt, have seen this video and they're reacting to it. I mean, this is just stunning, and they want to know what all of you have to say, starting with you, Reverend Jackson. What does all of this mean? Call us at 866-594-HOPE, and please reach out to us on the Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. page, the Santita Jackson and Friends page, and, of course, the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. And I will be with you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show on WCPT, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station. We'll be talking about this. Back with more of Keep Hope Alive in just a few minutes.
The revolution will not give your mouth sex appeal. The revolution will not get rid of the nub. The revolution will not make you look 5 pounds thinner.
Okay. Can we get Reverend? Oh, I'm sorry.
Keep up alive.
That's 1-866.
Hi, this is Anita. I'm calling from Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
All right, you want to make a comment about the topic?
Yeah, the topic is about the Mr. Nichols and the brutality of him not resisting and getting the bad treatment.
Okay, hold on.
Thank you, Anita. Reverend?
Chris,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
you want to make a comment on the topic too?
absolutely.
All right, hold on, Chris. Thank you. All right, go ahead.
I'll say, Cheetah.
Yes.
I was thinking that people may want to, if they have their radios on or whatever, because we keep getting echoes with everyone speaking.
Well, you know, what we're doing is trying to make sure that our Facebook and YouTube audiences hear us. So we're having to, unfortunately, put you up in the amplify you in the studio, and so that gives you feedback. I apologize for that, but
That's what. Okay.
that's the problem. But
Okay.
Reverend,
Yes.
Yes.
is Shelley there?
No.
Okay, you're by yourself.
Yes. What's
All right. Okay.
yeah.
Okay, because we can understand you here, and not even understand you. We can hear you here, but as soon as we bring you up on to the radio, that's what we hear. We hear a word. So that's why I was asking you to slow down and go with the rhythm of that. Just say bump up boom, pause, bump up boom, pause. Don't speak faster. People will be able to string things together, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I'm coming back to you, State Representative Hardaway for remedies. And then I'm coming to you, Commissioner Ellis, remedies. Reverend Wilson, remedies, I don't know. This is just so crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Stand by.
Well,
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. We want you to stay in touch with Reverend throughout the week. Go to rainbowpush.org. Please join the movement. We want you to be a part of all that we are doing. Reverend Jackson, indeed, will be at the funeral of Tyree Nichols on Wednesday with State Representative Hardaway and with Attorney Jay Bailey and Joseph Kiles and so many people down there. Reverend Al Sharpton will be giving the eulogy. Attorney Ben Crump will be there. So many folks will be there. You know, and that's important. But what happens after? I mean, we'll have a settlement, of course, a financial settlement. But was that justice, everybody? You know, it's very interesting. The indigenous community refused to take money from the American government. They refused. They're like, no, we want our land back. That's what we want. You can't pay me for this. You can't pay me for the displacement, for stealing my subcontinent from me, or continent, North America, including Canada. You can't do that. So I think that we've got some things to figure out here. And we, of course, joining Reverend Jackson is Attorney Jay Bailey out of Memphis, Tennessee, gave us a tremendous overview of what happened. The former director of the Illinois Department of Public Health, Dr. Damon Arnold, military veteran, someone who's been helping us to understand this from a military perspective and from a public health perspective as a physician. And Reverend Jeanette Wilson, Esquire. And of course, Texas Harris County Commissioner Ellis. Of course, you had Sandra Bland. We still don't know what happened there. So we're going to get to you in a hot second. But, oh boy, State Representative Hardaway, legislatively, what can you do? I mean, can legislation help what is clearly also a cultural problem?
Well, thank you, Bob, for the question. And the answer is yes, it can. Legislation can install in our statutes, laws, and subsequently policies that can help
to give you guidance and shape your behavior. But we can't legislate basic morality. We can't legislate basic values. Those are things that you get from your faith and you get through your home and training and your upbringing. My folks would say you can't raise other folks' children. Once they grown, they grown. What their parents did with them, they did with them. But we have some options. Legislative options, I've just by myself, I've thought of at least a dozen. Number one would be psychological evaluation upon hiring. The state has got to mandate that for all law enforcement officers and for all private security officers. If we give you that gun or a baton or pepper spray or a taser, we ought to know what type of mental and emotional state that you're in. We don't need to stop with the initial hiring. There should be annual psychological evaluation. There should be random psychological evaluation. You come in for your roll call, somebody needs to leave there and go straight to see the counselor and get their evaluation done, the same as we do for drug tests. There's nothing more critical than making sure that we don't send a guy out or a woman out that can be triggered by an ordinary circumstance in an encounter with a civilian. We need to look at the de-escalation techniques that we're starting to promote. We need to back up. Non-escalation. That is what we need to start with. If you don't create the problem, you don't have to de-escalate out of the problem. And it's exactly what it says. Non-escalation means you avoid the escalation. And if you avoid the escalation, you don't have to de-escalate. I think the odds are better that you avoid the problem as opposed to solving the problem, and the problem being violence, a physical altercation. Audio, video, photo technology. The law has got to catch up and fill in those gaps. Tampering with evidence, obstruction of justice. Those are the charges that need to be brought upon officers and anyone else that interferes with the ability for a dash cam or a body cam or a drone cam or sky cop. You interfere with that, there should be severe penalties. And the hiring registry, we've got to make sure that once we identify these guys or women in one department, that they aren't going to the next county, not going to the next city and hiring on and starting their development again. We need to have data collection and analysis that breaks down what's going on in the field where we have encounters. What's the use of deadly force? What's the use of pepper spray, tasers? What leads to the need for EMT care, hospitalization? I'm a member of GovOps, House Government Operations Committee, and we pride ourselves on one adage that you can't manage what you can't measure. We've got to do a better job of collecting and analyzing data so that we can do a better job of setting policies. Adult chronic trauma. We've had terrific advances in dealing with the trauma that impacts our children through the adoption of ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. We required that training and that knowledge going to our schools, going to our hospitals, going to the law enforcement. We've got to start to understand adult chronic trauma. What are our adults going through that's impacting their ability to maintain emotional and mental stability? And the last this isn't all of them, but the last, for the sake of time, I'm going to cover is whistleblower witness protection and relocation, that need the resources available for law enforcement, for our state district attorneys, for them to be able to whisk away those law enforcement officers who may have been at there, or other witnesses who may be at the scene of the crime and need to be sequestered as quickly as possible for their own protection and to keep them from being intimidated or even worse. So those are the ones that I want to share with you right now. And I would suggest that there's perhaps Attorney Bailey would have something to offer. In fact, not trying to run the show, but Attorney Bailey might want to speak to the Brady Rule, where we have some of this conduct that's not necessarily covered right now under the Brady Rule, where it's mandatory that the government share these type of infractions and untrustworthiness of law enforcement officers who may be witnesses, that you have to share rather that information with the defense.
Representative Hardaway, you touched on something that some of the protesters here in Memphis on night before last, that they were calling for. I forgot what it's called, but it's a registry, and that the data that you're talking about would be made public on anybody that is a law enforcement officer, prosecutor, what have you, that the number of stops that they have, how they, any complaints that they have, any of those things that would show patterns of aggression would be made public so that the public can access it. I mean, they're being paid by tax dollars. So, I'm sorry.
Reverend, need you to slow down just a little bit.
Goon Squad has been aggressive.
Reverend Jackson is actually, let's deal with that for a second. So what Reverend Jackson said a few minutes ago and earlier was that it was a part of their mission. And he's 100% correct. That squad was created to go into areas that they call quote unquote high crime areas, which is really black areas, inner city neighborhoods, and to saturate the area in an effort to show a major police presence. So he's actually right when he says that was they're part of their mission. They're sent in there to be aggressive, and as if we need more of that in our own neighborhoods. We got enough aggression in our neighborhoods, and but I want to bring another point up if I can, and that is, what kind of mindset does it take for a 32, 33-year-old black man in a uniform to look at another black man and hate him that bad? It's a self-hate. That's what was going through their heads. I mean, and these are the people that they hired to go patrol our neighborhood.
But what struck me about Santino?
No, hold on. Hold on one moment, Reverend Wilson, because I want to get to you and to Reverend and to Rodney Ellis, Commissioner Rodney Ellis. Reverend Jackson, quickly, please.
I was going to say, what was his name? Emmett Martin III. His parents.
His what?
And Dr. His name is Emmett Martin III. Emmett Till King Jr. I mean, Mills parents were and somehow he's a
okay,
man.
Reverend, we're not getting what you're saying. We're going to get you during the break so that you can speak to. Well, yeah, we get you when we're off the air, But when you come on there, we're getting every other word, and we want to hear everything that you've got to say. But very quickly, Jeanette Wilson, and then you, Commissioner Ellis. Reverend Wilson?
I'm here. What I was going to suggest is that patterns practices as conducted by the U.S. Attorney General's office made it clear that what happened in Memphis, what happened in Chicago, what happened all across this country is not unusual. There is a culture in the police department that suggests that they are military force, a domestic military force, and they are designed to occupy and deal with certain high crime areas which are designated predominantly Black and brown communities. That's the issue. The culture cannot be changed by legislation. We have to remove the leadership in these police departments. They have been mostly white, and oftentimes, as Reverend Jackson knows, they were members of the Klan. They wore sheets at night and they wore uniform by day. That has not changed. And so it is a culture of violence. Black and brown are racially profiled each and every day. And so, yes, we need legislative changes which punish police officers for this rogue behavior. But we also need a change in the training protocols. They're not trained to de-escalate. They're not trained to deal with conflict resolution. The assignment of cops, they are not assigned to neighborhoods with people where they live. They're assigned to, it's like they are going into alien communities.
Well, I think you need them all, because you certainly, as we agitate in the streets, you need someone like State Representative G.A. Hardaway and Commissioner Rodney Ellis who are going to agitate in the halls of power. I mean, that's why we sent them there. And Commissioner Rodney Ellis, because we still don't know what happened with Sandra Bland. We still don't know what happened. I mean, how this woman this tall hung herself and died in the jail cell. I mean, what was your reaction to this?
I think we have to put as much focus as we can on a legislative solution. I think all your guests are right. It is a culture, but these folks were smart enough to enhance the culture by putting things in place, policies in place legislatively. That's why I think President Biden and many others have made reference to the George Floyd Policing Act going back to 21. Now Mayor, then Congresswoman Karen Bass was the lead author on it. And it hit a couple of key areas that my friend Representative Hardaway and Attorney Bailey made reference to. One is lowering that criminal intent standard from willful to you're reckless when you try to convict a law enforcement officer of misconduct, at least in a federal case. And then limit this qualified immunity defense for liability, particularly in a civil action. Even if you can't do it in a criminal action, many law enforcement departments work that into their union bargaining as one of the contracts, as one of the clauses, so you can't get around it. And then we need to grant administrative subpoena power to the Department of Justice so you can look at this pattern, these practices that go on around the country. And then that bill gives us a framework to prevent racial profiling, and then stopping things like these no warrant walks and warrants, yeah, and chokeholds, and then get a national registry. I think that Hardaway and Bailey made reference to that. So somebody doesn't leave Memphis and go to Shelby County, leave Shelby County, go to Cook County, Harris County, LA County. At least you know what they're doing. And then finally direct the Department of Justice to create some uniform accreditation standards for law enforcement. But look, you're right. I mean, look, I know we can't regulate somebody's heart. My friend Ann Richards, she's governor, had a great line. She said, life's not fair, but government has to be. So government at least needs to put in some guardrails. Last point is this tragedy out of Memphis has really provoked discussion to try to put us back to where we were after names you mentioned, like Sandra Bland, Trayvon Martin, George Floyd. You know, the elections all around this country, the hot button, including in the Memphis upcoming mayoral race. The issue became law and order, as though we forgot William Horton created a whole series of laws, generations of squads being created like this. The whole tenor of the debate changed. And it won't be long, my fear is, after this funeral in Memphis on Wednesday, it won't be long before the merchants of doom are out there figuring out how to spin this to go back to the way things used to be after a series of names of people like Tariq that we can go through.
Yeah.
Santita,
Something
can I say one thing before I leave?
Okay, sure. We've got about a minute.
Legislative approach is appropriate, but it must be two ways. Federal, this criminal justice reform is a states' rights agenda. And so we have to elect people in the legislature, like the brother from Tennessee, who is committed to reforming the criminal justice system in that state. But in order for us to have equity and parity, we have to have it at the federal level. All we have been able to do is call in the U.S. Attorney General when they are favorable to investigate patterns and practices of misbehavior by police departments. We need some federal legislation that causes police officers to be treated the same way as a civilian who engages in criminal acts, particularly ones that result in murder.
Well, you know, we've got a lot to talk about. Yes.
Means you got to piece it out, try it on the federal level, see what you can do on the state level, see what you can do on the county level, what you can do on the city level, school board level. You know, you got dozens of police departments with all independent powers in every jurisdiction in the country.
Everybody, we've got a lot of work to do. Stay right there. We're talking about the Tyre Nichols case out of Memphis. Got a lot of great information coming your way from Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. Please go to rainbowpush.org. Join the organization. We need your support, and we've got a lot of work to do. Back with more of Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson in just a moment.
We'll have closing thoughts
That I don't know.
from Reverend Jesse Jackson. Right
Jeremy,
here
this
on
is
Keep
what
Hope
this
Alive.
gentleman, Gene, said.
That
Technical
bill's piling
comment.
up.
He said it sounds like the
Temporary
Reverend's
prescriptions.
audio is being run through an automatic gain control and limited circuit.
Not on this board.
Not on this board. What happens when he comes through the board? Is there any way that he can not go through the board? No?
I mean, everybody else is going through the board.
Yeah.
Do like that.
Okay. Well,
Did Reverend Wilson say she had to go?
yes.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
We were at a loss until we tried
Santita.
Reverend Santita just walked out. But we can hear you, so if you want to talk to the guest, you can.
Right. Yes, sir, Reverend. So this thing is social, it's about 45 in the black people business and Venezuela. If you got them press like this,
That is all right.
it's a culture thing. We'll tell some of them like this. Rodney,
Oh, it is. I can hear you. Yeah. Oh, it is a cultural issue. And this was culture more than race.
it was absolutely. There's them not to beat white people up.
Well, you know, sometimes I think Hardaway made a reference to that self-hatred, which, you know, it was programmed, so long ago.
That's why I said earlier.
And it's being reprogrammed under the guise of blue code. Those law enforcement officers suck you into a mentality that you don't just go along to get along. You become one of them. It's like having the millennial version of Straw Boss, where from back in the old slavery days. And who was the worst, very worst, in terms of physical treatment of slaves? The Strovo.
Yeah. That's how they got to be the boss.
Exactly. They want to please the master. And that's why it's so important to have those mental and emotional baselines at the beginning of employment consideration and to check them every year. And we have artificial intelligence now that has programs where we can dig deeper into what the potential is for you to go off track. And we need to use that technology on the local and state level. Some of the federal law enforcement agencies are experimenting with it now.
And hey, Representative, am I right? The focus was so strong on criminal justice reforms, and then just like a light. I mean, you would have thought that the Floyd video never happened. I mean, the spotlight went off, you know.
Yeah, here comes
one of the things. One of the things I would look at too is that there was a complete, because I used to be in army units where we went into Iraq and Afghanistan, Kuwait, and there was a total lack of control and a failure of leadership and command and control. Tyree Nichols actually was raised in Sacramento, California. He only moved to Memphis in 2020. And those people who were in that unit with 3 to 6 years of experience, all 5 of them, only 3 to 6 years of experience in an insurgent hotspot policing team.
2 minutes.
There's something wrong with the way that they organized that. There was a failure of leadership throughout that police department, going all the way up to the superintendent. And I think a lot of that's going to come out.
All right, stand by. Hold on, please.
Reverend? Okay, hold on.
To Reverend Jesse Jackson at KeepHopeAliveRadio.com.
Hey, everybody, stay tuned for more of Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson as we talk about the Tyree Nichols case in Memphis. So much that we are learning here. He was pursued by these police officers. They were police officers at the time in an unmarked car in a city where you are grappling with crime. One can only imagine what was going through his mind as he was just minutes away from his mother. God bless him. We're talking with Tennessee State Representative G.A. Hardaway, Memphis lawyer Jay Bailey, and Commissioner Rodney Ellis from Texas Harris County. Of course, Sandra Bland. We still don't know what happened to her. Dr. Damon Arnold, the former head of the Illinois Department of Public Health. And of course, Reverend Jesse Jackson is with us today on his show as we talk about this particular case. This young man will be funeralized on Wednesday. But what's after the funeral? What happens next? Legislatively, culturally? The Scorpion Squad has been disbanded, but really, have they been? Has the spirit of the Scorpion Squad been disbanded, or are they just going to take on a new form? We've got a lot to talk about here on Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. I hope you can join me on my show, on the Santita Jackson Show, on the largest progressive talk radio station in the country, WCPT and AM 950 Radio in Minneapolis, St. Paul. We got a lot to talk about today. Stay right here. Call us at 866-594-HOPE, 866-594-4673 on Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson.
Thank you for listening to Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. For more information on upcoming shows and guests, please visit our website
Good morning.
at
Good morning, Senator Taylor.
www.keephopealiveradio.com.
Good morning. Well, thank you.
Reverend Jackson?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, keep talking, Daddy. Hey, State Senator Taylor.
Good morning, Reverend. Good morning, Santita. Good morning, everyone else.
Okay, and we've got Tennessee State Representative G.A. Hardaway, Memphis Attorney
Good morning,
Jay Bailey.
Senator. Hey, G.A., how are you? Doing well.
Y'all having a good time today. I'm not.
I know that's right. Oh yeah, you don't want to got the crew back together.
Okay. All right, I love it. You all right, sugar? Greenville, you all right?
My mom's actually down there right now.
In Greenville?
Visiting her mom.
Senator Turner, Rodney Ellis here. I know I got to run, but it's so good to hear you.
Hi, it's John Nichols.
Good morning, John Nichols, police officer.
Good to hear you.
Commissioner Ellis?
Santina, I gotta shave so I can get to church and look like I'm not riding the bike since it's raining here today.
I'm going to give you my opening remarks right here, so you'll have a couple of minutes, and then you can leave Reverend Jackson, and you can feel abandoned.
Speak with Reverend Jackson.
I'm gonna call him later today, though.
Please.
I heard Shelley's not in there with him. We'll call Shelley like it's church.
594-4673. And now.
Rodney.
Stand by. We're coming in. Hey, everybody, stand by. Hey, sweetie. John?
Yep, I'm here.
Got a lot to talk about. I know you're with me for a short time. Hey, everybody. Keep Up Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. Let's talk about the Tyre Nichols case. There's no need to go back over it. 4 videos showed us what was going on. But you know what? We have some experts here who can help us to understand what we saw in the video. And everybody here, John Nichols from The Nation is joining us for a short while. Tennessee State Representative G.A. Hardaway laid out a whole list of remedies that he's going to put forward and that need to be put forward so that we don't have to have this again. Attorney Jay Bailey out of Memphis, Tennessee, has given us a tremendous perspective. They've all been working together along with Joseph Kiles, the executive director of Rainbow Push Memphis. And of course, Dr. Damon Arnold, former head of the Illinois Department of Public Health, helping us to understand what it is that we were seeing, administration of care. Why did it not happen? And could it have saved his life as badly as he had been beaten? Could his life have been saved if they had not waited 30 minutes to treat him? Unbelievable. While he's twitching on the ground, gurgling. You know he's in distress. Are you serious? Call us at 866-594-HOPE. Chris and Anita and everybody else, we will be getting to you. But Texas Harris County Commissioner Rodney Ellis dealt with this with Sandra Bland and with other cases. What do you make of what is our takeaway from this moment, Commissioner Ellis?
One big takeaway that I get is that it's so sad that the Tyre Nichols case reopens this one that, unfortunately, after George Floyd, and there was such an outpouring of discussion about reforms on all levels, not just what can happen on the federal level, which is always so difficult but so important, on the local level, state legislators. And then the light went off, and everybody was focused on law enforcement, moving away from issues that are so important, like trying to stop this cash bail system where so many people who don't have money get trapped in the system. It went back to a total law enforcement mentality. And it's so sad that Memphis has to be the place where we reopen these wounds. But I'm prayerful, and I'm going to do my part in Texas and around the country with good guests like you have on this star-studded panel. Senator Turner, Representative Hardaway, The Nation representative here, Wilson, Dr. Arnold, and Attorney Bailey. It's been a wide-ranging discussion, but we got to make sure we keep the heat on because it won't be long. Right now, you got people in back rooms plotting out, trying to figure out right after Wednesday when the funeral is over. They'll push to get a quick settlement if they can from the government, even try not to take the civil side to court, and then act as though money somehow pushes away that pain that so many of us feel all around the country. So, Santita, I'm sorry I have to run, but you got some great guests on here. I'm going to listen to it when I slow down later today.
Well, we thank you. So we thank you because these are issues that permeate the country. Indeed, we have people who are tuning in from Egypt, Reverend, from Spain, from Puerto Rico. Yes, Reverend Jackson.
I can barely hear you.
So far. I'm concerned about the amount of coverage. We're about to deal with 19 Asians get killed. And they don't exist anymore. 19 Asian, 1 black killed. Now, the dynamic of the thing is real. 2 blacks were lynched in Tennessee, 1816. Is this about diverting attention from the heinous record? Why is that attempt to exclude from the court hearings of the all-white juries, black people? I'm very concerned that we'll miss attention here. Baseline has to be to the blacks in slavery, Tennessee and Mississippi, 900 blacks were taken. 700 in Alabama, maybe state 500 in Arkansas. So there's a record here of two black people in inhumane work that will not go away.
Well, Reverend, we heard you clearly this time. So, let's go to this break. And John Nichols, we're going to hear from you when we get on the other side, of course. I'm going to connect you to Attorney Jay Bailey out of Memphis and Tennessee State Representative G.A. Hardaway. They're people you need to talk to for the nation. And Regina Brent from the Illinois Police Association. We've got a lot of people who can talk to us today. Dr. Damon Arnold, former head of the Illinois Department of Public Health, helping us to understand just what we saw in that video. They haven't shown the whole video again. And I think that we should see it. Don't hide this. Don't candy coat this. Don't sugarcoat this. This happened. Don't bury it. Now we need to deal with it. We need to deal with this. God bless us all. Back with more of Keep Hope Alive in just a few minutes. Ms. Brent? Oh, sorry. Ms. Brent?
Good morning.
Good
morning, Santita.
I want you to meet John Nichols, national correspondent for The Nation magazine, Tennessee State Representative G.A. Hardaway, Dr. Damon Arnold, former head of our Illinois Department of Public Health, but you know that.
Good morning.
And we have got Attorney Jay Bailey out of Memphis, of course, Reverend Jesse Jackson, and Wisconsin State Senator Lena Taylor is weighing in. This is a national conversation, and just for the record, everyone, we've seen people from Spain, from Puerto Rico, from Egypt, and all over the world and all over the country who are tuning in today, because this video has been viewed everywhere, and it has devastated people. So you all keep talking. I'm going to run and get some coffee.
All right. Good morning. I'm honored to be amongst good company here.
It is good company.
And good morning.
Yes.
Now or at the bottom of the hour?
Until at the bottom of the hour. So,
I just want
Good morning, Reverend
Yeah.
Jackson. Good morning, Reverend Jackson.
Good morning, America. I'm concerned about these people. I'm concerned about all of the murder of their parents. What was his name? Emmett Martin, South Gang, and Mattel. These are real famous boys who
Yes, sir.
They reward people to beat up on black people.
I know.
The Goon Squad is a product of a system that rewards people to beat up on black people. They would have done the program differently. Again, it's black shoes white, jail time, white shoes black, time, black shoes black, middle time. We don't have much regard for that. I think you get a promotion
I thought she just went
on down to black people.
Reverend Jackson, I would like to take this moment to apologize to you personally on behalf of my generation. I'm 69 years old. You know my friend, Joella Stevenson. Listen, for all you've done to excel our race, I'm just so sorry that you have to witness this during the completion of your tenure of civil rights. I hope you don't feel like this was a waste of your time, or that you didn't do the proper things you need to do to excel us within this country, but you did all that you can do, as well as many others. And we're just going to start keeping the fight. We're going to keep the fight up. We want you to know that.
Well, you have an environment
that encourages violence. I mean, you got a guy who is run president again, who was the biggest liar we've ever known. He is an act of treason against our royal department, everyday bankers and police and teachers and all like that. There's people who now then don't
Do they even do any
have black history,
protesting?
which it means that
I don't know.
I heard they were. I heard that they were getting ready. I mean, the police were getting ready for it.
And then I heard someone say, I just saw looting.
I saw it on Facebook on 87.
Yeah.
Like, on 87.
Yeah. So I don't know. But I know they did. And then
If I may,
I haven't watched it.
Reverend Jackson, your legacy lives on in me. I was 13 years old participating in the 68 march in Memphis. And only two legislators, myself and Joe Towns, carried that on. But I want you to know your life definitely is not in vain.
Can't understand.
But I was 13 years old, 10th grade, and downtown in Memphis, Tennessee. So, yeah, your legacy lives, sir.
Yeah. Let me see. Now, black lynch in Mississippi, almost 200 in Tennessee. Unlike a beating or a lynching is
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Let's see, watch this. Oh, yes.
You guys are so cold.
You cold? You will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out.
See, I like the cold. I'll drive.
You will not be able to lose yourself on Skag and during commercials because the revolution will not be televised.
Yes. Welcome back to Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. For those of you who are watching us on YouTube and Facebook, yes, I have put on a crazy hat and a coat because they have the air blowing in here today and it feels like it's 60 degrees. I'm freezing. My father would be freezing too if he were in here. Reverend Jesse Jackson. Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. Let me see that screen. Oh gosh, Dad, I'm so glad you're not in here today. You'd be sneezing all over the place. I'm about to pass out myself. Attorney Jay Bailey, Reverend, is joining you from Memphis, Tennessee. He used to be the head of your youth division for Rainbow Push. He welcomed us down to the convention in '85 and joined you, joined your campaigns. Like you, we and John, our first votes for the presidency were for Reverend Jesse Jackson. It's, we're from that generation, and boy, what an exciting time it was. As Chris Rock said when he welcomed you onto his show years ago, Reverend, he was almost tearful. He said, "Reverend, when I voted for you, it meant something to me, and it really, really did. And in hindsight, it means even more. Someone who you knew without question was fighting for you, and you're still doing it." Tennessee State Representative G.A. Hardaway. You're pulling him from Nashville. He said he's waiting for you to get into Memphis tomorrow. So you'll be with him. You'll be with Attorney Jay Bailey. You'll be with Joseph Kiles, Dr. Damon Arnold, former head of our Illinois Department of Public Health. Indeed, someone who absolutely, I have so much admiration for him, someone who's put public health over personal wealth. And whenever you need someone to answer the real questions of the day, be they cultural, social, or political, he is right there. Regina Brent, speaking with and working with the Illinois police officers and helping us to get another perspective, trying to be a bridge between the community and the police. We love and all of the work that she's done, and of course, the brilliant Wisconsin State Senator Lena Taylor. She's got a lot to say. Can't wait to hear what she's got to say about it. But Reverend, we've got John Nichols, national correspondent from The Nation, with us for a hot second. Reverend?
I'm suspecting my news subject is together. 1980 killed in 2 days. We fast forward from that to this case. What is the news saying? Are they going to groom some court records for all white jurors that were mixed at church on Sunday? They have lynching downtown. and then announce it in churches at night, on church again. It's time to come up to listen. Nick King was shot one time in the neck, was hard out. In San Peter, a lynching planned event, but you have to cover up, announce it. Then in churches on Sunday, 4 o'clock, you have a big rally downtown.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm a very suspect of my mood services.
Well, Reverend, it's like they were waiting. Reverend, it's like they were waiting for. I mean, they got the A teams down from all of the cable networks and the news networks down there, waiting on Friday for a riot. And I said, wait, there's a whole lot that's happened this week. And it almost seems like a diversion, as awful as this has been. I'm with you. There's a lot going on. But John Nichols is only with us for a few minutes, Reverend Jackson, national correspondent for The Nation magazine. John, what did you see? What do you see?
But what I see is a moment of urgency. And the Reverend Jackson reminds us that this is part of history, unfortunately, and a long history. But we are at a point now where, within the last several years, we saw a major movement for the reform of policing in the streets, in the legislatures, in our Congress, and it got so close. We've now had another horrific event, another horrific death, and another horrific killing, murder. And what we have to do in this moment is pull the brake and stop and say that the urgency now must overtake us. We must recognize what has to be done. And there are immediate things that can be done. When Congress returns, they should take up legislation that is already available to end qualified immunity. Qualified immunity, and do this not just as a solution for the whole thing. It's one part of it, but do that now and understand that the effort to end qualified immunity is supported by many progressives. It is also supported by the libertarian conservative Cato Institute, which says, look, this is just practical. It is moral. It is right. So you begin by ending qualified immunity. And then, if we recognize the moment that we are in, let us also know that this is a spring election season. In the spring election season, we elect judges and a lot of local officials. This isn't a big national election. It's not the big midterm election. Mm-hmm. This is when we elect Supreme Court justices and county judges and circuit judges in states across this country. And we have a big election in Wisconsin coming up in April. This is a time to recognize that the people who we put into office as district attorneys, prosecuting attorneys, state's attorneys, as municipal judges, county judges, circuit judges, state Supreme Court judges, these people can do the right thing. And we have to recognize that our elections for law enforcement positions and for the judiciary are justice struggles. And so those would be the two things I would say at this point. There's a million more things to say, of course, but end qualified immunity. Make that an immediate step that we can take to show that we recognize what has happened and what must be done. And then secondly, focus on these municipal elections and recognize we can elect prosecutors and judges who are unafraid, who will do the right thing for morality and for racial justice.
Well, John, very quickly, qualified immunity, what is it?
It simply says that police officers have a higher level of protection from prosecution than other people when they are in the pursuit of their job, when they're doing their job. And look, I understand being a cop is tough. I know that there's difficult situations, but the fact of the matter is, I agree with the experts on policing and with police officers who say they don't need a special protection. They don't need to be given additional protection. They should recognize that when they put that badge on, they are there to protect and serve. And that protection and that service
includes following the law, simply following the law, and frankly, exercising humanity. I have known police officers who have been in terribly difficult situations, who've had people shoot at them, and yet the person that shot at them survived, right? Because they knew there were ways to avoid what happened in Memphis. And that's the bottom line reality. And so ending qualified immunity gives us a tool, it gives us a protection, and it basically says then police officers who do not recognize their moral and legal duty to protect and serve can be prosecuted for their wrongdoing.
Wisconsin State Senator Lena Taylor, as you know, every Tuesday at 7:30 Central Standard Time, John Nichols has a segment on my show, and he's been very eager. We've had so many other issues to deal with, but he said, Santita, we've got to deal with the fact that we are looking at the Wisconsin State Supreme Court. That election is coming up, and he makes that point, and you're always trying to amplify the point that there are so many that we have to be concerned about our state, local, and county elections because these people have so much power over how we live. Wisconsin State Senator Lena Taylor, first, your reaction to this video.
It was so sad to see something that could be worse than the rotten can be. It was even more sad to see that if it wasn't for the people in the neighborhood, you probably would have had the best view, which was the overhead view. I was speechless to see not one, not two, not three, not four, 5 officers that were first charged, but the sheriffs and others were around and really not saying anything. So it lets you know that this really, I mean no harm, but it's not just about race. For those who have felt that it was, I hope that this shows them that it's beyond that. It's about a way of thinking that exists. It's about the blue wall of silence. It's about actually, I would argue, some de-escalation training and mental health training and supportive services, even for officers, because somewhere along the line, there has to be something to allow them to decompress and for accountability to happen in thinking. So that's my immediate reaction. And the same things that I've been saying since Derek Williams was in the back of the squad or Dontre Hamilton was killed in Milwaukee. It's the same thing for Ernest Lacey, who was years before I was ever elected and was when I was a child in Milwaukee. The people have died to the hands of officers. And so what I am saying is that we've got to get some specific type of training in. There is no question. John hit it on the head. How many times I've had conversations with my colleagues that, qualified immunity needs to be addressed. So rolling up our sleeves and saying the same thing again. Now, in regards to the election, this is probably one of the most important. I know we say it all the time, but this is truly one of the most important elections for Supreme Court. In Wisconsin, we are literally under a 172-year-old law or some craziness like that, that basically says that women don't have the right to an abortion, because you can't even have exceptions for rape or incest. And the part that I find even more troubling is the long-term effect that it's going to have. What does that mean? People who are in school to become doctors, the schools cannot teach the same way. They have to figure out what they're going to do for their students so that the students can get the kind of teaching that they need so that they can be prepared to be doctors, no matter where they go in the nation, not just that they're going to a place that decided that they don't care about women's rights and trying to block us from being able to make choices with our doctors. So I am saying to people that February and April election is really about taking us, Wisconsin, our motto is forward, taking us forward and taking us backwards. And whether or not we're going to go back to fight for rights that my ancestors, you know, my grandparents, you know, fought for, and to tell people that it's important. And I haven't even had a chance to tell you, I'm glad that John fixed it up. He said just the Supreme Court judicial races. He had forgot to mention municipal court in the midst of that. And so I'm in my process right now of going to the bench and trying to go to the bench and hope that the people will choose me to be Judge Lena Taylor.
Somebody is out somewhere, but we hear you. We are not mad. We're glad that all of you are with us today. We've got a lot of callers, Reverend, a lot of people who want to speak with us, but I know John Nichols is about to go. And John, I got a couple of minutes for you.
Well, we have had a very Wisconsin-oriented presentation here from my friend Lena Taylor, and obviously I'm a Wisconsinite. And look, this focus on the Supreme Court race, and as Lena well points out, focus on local races for municipal judge, county judge, circuit judge, for prosecutor positions. All of these matter. And we can't let these races be delinked from all of our other passion and concern, anger. We have to channel it into a moment where we really can make the change that needs to be made. But even more immediately than that, and as Lena well points out, we have had these proposals to address qualified immunity, to get down to this issue, to create a situation where police officers can protect and serve, but if they do wrong, that they will be held to account. This is the moment in which to do it. We shouldn't wait months. We should do it this week. Legislatures across this country and Congress should not look away from this issue. They shouldn't just give thoughts and prayers, although I value prayers greatly. They should act.
Well, you know, which brings me to Tennessee State Representative G.A. Hardaway. I mean, because you came up with a whole list of legislative remedies, of things that you must do. Do you believe that there's the same sense of urgency in your state legislature about this? I mean, because whether people, because I was watching C-SPAN yesterday morning, and there were some people who said, well, if he had only complied, I said, he still would have died. When you comply, you die. It just doesn't matter what we do. State Representative Hardaway?
Heck, I would say if these rogue, maverick outlaws who hold themselves out to be police officers and law enforcement officers who are serving and protecting, if they would comply with their policies of the department, if they would comply with state law, if they would comply with the Constitution, then we'd have these black men alive and tending to their parents, their children, their siblings today. I believe that we've got a challenge. We've got a chance by accepting that challenge and doing it now. The sense of urgency that we are experiencing on the state level and on the local level is, believe it or not, comparable to the George Floyd status that we found ourselves in legislatively before. And we were able to get a couple of things done. I was surprised as I could be that our Republican majority would support completely eliminating no-knock warrants. And we had some other adjustments that we made in the issues of reform, but they didn't go far enough. They were watered down. I think we can go back and the things that I covered before. We've got a chance. We've got a chance, and that's all we ask. Give us a chance to try to get it done. But I'll say to Senator Taylor.
I got about 15 seconds.
the same thing I've told my own young people here in Tennessee. If you're big mad or little mad, you need to be angry enough to attend a town hall meeting later, work a candidate's campaign later, work an issues campaign, and then plan and go out to the polls and vote. That's the reaction you need to have.
Get involved. It's more than a march, everybody. Marching is part of it. You got to get involved. Back with more of Keep Hope Alive in just a few minutes.
Your opinion counts. 1-866-594-HOPE. That's 1-866-594-4673.
Can you all hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm curious, right quick. This is Bailey? The qualified immunity only deals with the civil accountability in terms of the ability, for one to sue the officer.
Yeah.
No.
Is that correct?
Let's call Shelly as soon as this is over. Because I'm waiting on mine.
It says here, this is Regina. May I speak?
Regina
It
Brent?
says, hi. Are we on?
Oh, yeah. We're on Facebook Live. But keep talking to
Okay,
everyone
yes.
here.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I'd like to get this out the way. Qualified immunity protects state and local officials, including law enforcement officers, from individual liability unless the official violated a clearly established constitutional right.
Right.
With that being said, I was asked one time, hey, Regina, do you think the police just gets up every morning with the intentions of coming out to kill people? I said, no, I do not, because I do realize there are good police officers on the force. However, I do believe that there are policemen who intentionally get up every morning and come out here to put people into positions to be killed.
Ooh.
In other words, when you pull me over and you say to me, where are you going? I'm feeling violated. Now, you may have intentions to say, hey, the traffic is heavy down on Route 30, but you might want to go another way. But that's not what happens here. Many times we come up dead after a traffic stop. But here's what I want to say. I concur with everything everyone has said this morning. But I'd like to make reference to the fact that Biden.
No, hold that thought. I want you to make this point on the air. Okay?
Oh, I thought I was on. I'm sorry.
We're on Facebook Live. Absolutely.
All right.
Which is
Coming up.
got a lot of people
This is John
who
Nichols,
tuned in
and
to
I
stand
have
by.
to go. I have to go, but let me give you my love and solidarity. This is such an
Okay,
important show.
hold that thought. I'm gonna let you go. Is that
John Nichols.
John? Oh,
Mr. Nichols,
John. Okay, stand by,
I would
everybody.
love to get in touch.
Stand by. I'm gonna connect everybody. Hey, everybody. Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. John Nichols from The Nation magazine is going to have to go. Regina Brent, Illinois police officers, cannot wait. She has done so much to build bridges between the police officers and the community. That's why we had to have her on today. Wisconsin State Senator Lena Taylor. Dr. Damon Arnold, former head of the Department of Public Health of the state of Illinois. Attorney Jay Bailey from Memphis. Tennessee State Representative G.A. Hardaway, who's going to be meeting you, Reverend Jackson, down there. He said, no, I'm not going back to Nashville. I want to see you, Reverend. So you all going to have a nice posse, which is what you're going to need, because you do need this brain trust to work our way through all of this. John Nichols, I know you're running, and then I'm going to come to you, Ms. Brent.
These words. Reverend Jackson, when he ran for president in 1984 and 1988, talked about police violence. He was criticized for that. He was dismissed for that. He was not treated as seriously as he should have been, but he was right. Now we are the better part of 40 years on. It is time to take the legal and the moral steps that can end police violence. It is possible to do this in our lifetime. It is possible to do it with respect for police officers who want to do their job, but with an understanding that those who do wrong can and should be held to account. It is a simple equation. It's the one Reverend Jackson talked about decades ago. It is now one we must make the reality of this country, and we can't lose our sense of urgency. This is the time to act. Don't wait weeks, don't wait months. In the days to come, we should take practical steps that tell all Americans that they can have justice for all.
Mm.
Thank you, Santita.
We love you, John Nichols.
These brilliant people talking about these issues.
Well, we need to see and hear from all of them in corporate media, but that's why you have us. We're independent because we need to hear from you. We need to hear from Attorney Jay Bailey. We need to hear from State Representative G.A. Hardaway, who's got some plans. You know, we need to hear from Dr. Damon Arnold, who can look at this from the military perspective and from the public health perspective, and as a physician, as a practicing physician. You know, we need. Yes, Reverend.
Goon Squad, the assignment is black only. It's not equal in to white people.
No, you can, Reverend. You can't even imagine a white man being beaten to death like that.
My point, they Goon Squad has a black only assignment.
Hey, well, that's what it's looking like. Regina Brent, talk to us. You have done so much work with the Illinois police officers. Why don't you give us a little bit of your background as you go into, as you talk to us?
Good morning, Santita. Thank you. I would love to be bringing you a praise report at this time from what we're doing out here, the wonderful things we're doing in the western suburbs of the surrounding DuPage County, Kane, Will, and even Cook County. Listen, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I've had knots in my stomach ever since I've seen the video. But what I want to say to you, and I want to make it clear to your audience, that qualified immunity protects state and local officials, including law enforcement officers, from individual liability unless the official violates a clearly established constitutional right. In other words, I had a deputy chief who is now retired from out here ask me a question in a predominantly white audience one night at a meeting. He said, Regina, do you think police officers just get up every morning with the intentions of coming out here to kill somebody? And I looked at him and I said, sir, no, I do not, because I do believe there are wonderful police officers on every force. But I will say this. I do believe that there are some police officers who wake up every morning with the intention of coming out into the community to put people in a position to be killed. In other words, if you pull me over and you ask me, where are you going? Or get out the car, or you say something disrespectful to me when you greet me, you're putting me in a position to be killed, because now I'm feeling violated and I know my rights. And that's what happened to my friend, Sandra Bland. She was a friend of mine. She was a member of our DuPage AME church out of Naperville and Lisle. But my point too is, Mrs. Nichols, I want to feel every nook and cranny of that woman's pain, that woman's tears, that woman missing her sleep at night because of the fact that I have a 51-year-old son who has served in the Navy for 14 years. He is an outstanding and wonderful citizen. And I have to think about him every day, every night that he's out here traveling through this lay of the land. I want to say that Tyre Nichols was a sacrificial lamb. He was sacrificed through the blood of Christ because those cops had to be revealed at some time or another. They've been doing this. This is not the first time. As far as politics is concerned, I want to say I'm sick and tired of the classified papers that they're so worried about. Where, excuse my language, in the hell is George Floyd's paper? We're so satisfied with Biden putting every horse in a stall when it comes to race. Yes, he has a diversity administration. But what good is it if they have no power to get nothing done? If that qualified immunity bill had been signed through executive order, Kyrie may be here today. It doesn't mean because he can't pass it through the Congress that he cannot now use his Senate seats to do this. And so I concur with everything everybody said this morning. Yes, we're based out of the western suburbs of Illinois, throughout the counties. We work with the state attorneys out here and all the chiefs. And I hope, Santita, that you share our information with all the callers and the panel on this call, because I think we have to come together. Our church is practicing Harambe. It means all of us coming together to get our communities enhanced. And we work with the chief of Deputy Chief Snelling out of Chicago, Officer Charles O'Connor out of Chicago. We are all over the place trying to bring safety and healthy communities throughout this country.
Well, you know what? We have that's why we have this diverse panel. And before I come back to our wonderful guests from Tennessee and everybody here, we've had some callers who have called in and they have been holding for a long time. Let me go to you, Chris. Chris, what's your comment? Thank you so much for being so patient with us today.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Reverend Jackson. What I want to say is, and condolences to the family. I would say American policing is antiquated and prehistoric, because even in war, you have the Geneva Convention, how humane you have to treat your enemy combatant. What I saw the other day got my blood boiling, and how human beings can treat another human being. And then when it's armed, you were handcuffed and kicked in the face and beat mercilessly, and no medical from the medics, and just no humanity. And when the chief called herself taking action, this behavior had to be done before, because there was a special unit for crime, but yet he was brutalized in a traffic stop, which they have no evidence he was doing reckless driving. Mm-hmm. We also have, in this country, how can qualified immunity trump your constitutional rights, and it's not even in the Constitution. And the way that person died on this American soil for the world to see. But we also have problems in Chicago with our police, where they have a Proud Boy on the police force, and none of the mayoral candidates talking about firing. You see the person who shot those people in Highland Park, he was taken alive, and he shot 30 and killed people. He'll have his day in court. You see Kyle Rittenhouse walking down the street after killing, shoot 2 or 3 people with an assault rifle, and the police give him water. So the way Mr. Nichols was beaten and murdered, it just, my blood is boiling. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let me go to, yes. Oh, okay.
Immunity, and I agree with everything everyone has said about it, but that particularly addresses civil liability. What we really have to have legislated is laws that would hold police officers and law enforcement officers criminally liable when they violate the rights of an individual, like they did this young man. Although these officers are being held criminally liable, that's because we have an attorney general that acted swiftly. And but in most cases, and the prior attorney general would never have held these district attorney, would never have held those guys responsible. They would have called it a justifiable stop, and they would have claimed that his not putting his hands behind his back would have justified the actions they took. We have to hold these officers criminally liable. They have to know that they can go to jail. And that, I think, would create at least some more awareness amongst the officers on the accountability for their behavior.
Attorney Bailey, they do have to have insurance. If you hit someone with your car, you are liable. And so we feel like if we have to start somewhere. If you lose your house, you can lose your house. You might even lose your family.
Right.
That's a step, in the right direction to at least get it started, I think. And Petita, I tell you, when I saw this kid in the hospital in that bed, it brought me back to Emmett Till. And so that's why I don't want to hear any more from people saying, and I'm not trying to be judgmental. This is Regina. I'm not trying to be judgmental, but what I'm saying to you as a mother, you have to watch this. I can't watch it and I can't stand to see it. Let me tell you something. In order to come out here every day and do this work and to sit at the table with these chiefs to stand for what's right, I have to watch it because I have to feel this pain of the people that's enduring this. And then to say anything about different treatment. Let me tell you, I have a friend who says this situation was called slapped by the familiar hand. This was your own people who did this to us after we had incurred the situation with George Floyd. And so I could care less about the white, if it was white policemen or if it was, I know there's a disparity. I know there's a difference, but this is not the time for that.
Well, no, I hear you. I want to bring on at least one more caller, Fred from Los Angeles, before we go to break. And I promise you, Anita, we're going to talk with you through the break. But Fred, very quickly, your question or comment.
Santine and Peter's panel, I'll be as brief as possible. We'll hit this from an administrative point of view. Two different angles at it. The body camera angle that was well staged by the officers, I could see that. If that was all we had, the discharge would not be sustained. But the poll camera, they didn't know about it, and so we actually saw what the mindset of police officers really do. It's been like that in Los Angeles since 1960, all the way up until the Rodney King beating. We saw Southern justice, like the sheriff, and when the man broke out his baton. I don't even know if that's legal by that police force. But I've been to juror number 9 on a murder case. They were asking for the death penalty. This has elements of a first-degree murder when he took out that baton by waiting to get medical attention, and one could speculate a conspiracy. This if you saw this on a computer screen and you pushed the button that said, "Give me make me white," it made all of these officers white. These black officers learned well. This is sad, Santita. Thanks for your time.
No, thank you.
No words from Fred?
Poor Jeremy.
No words from Fred?
Wow. Something happened. Fred feels this is a sad situation. Wow.
I want to say one thing is that, Tyree Nichols was raised in Sacramento, California. He had just moved to Tennessee in 2020. And the officers were there for 3 to 6 years on that experience of, Scorpion Force. They had no right being on that. And if I had someone come up behind me in an unmarked car with plain clothes on, I'm not thinking about stuff. Especially all the carjackings and all this other stuff going on. And so it was a failure of leadership throughout that department, going all the way up to superintendent. They knew that they had people who are in that force who are perpetrators of violence and hatred and murder. And they did nothing to stop them. This is not the first time that they were engaged in this kind of activity. And someone needs to be held accountable throughout that department. They need to clean out and have a federal investigation of that entire department. There's 50 members of Scorpion, right? And Scorpion is supposed to do street crimes operations to restore peace in our neighborhoods. How do you name something Scorpion, a vicious predator, and you're talking about restoring peace in our community. This kind of thing has got to stop. You know, when I was over in Iraq and I got back and saw what happened to Trayvon Martin, I had to extend more of a constitutional right and dignity to enemy combatants than they extended to Trayvon Martin or to Tyree Nichols. They need to be held accountable, and those people who are in leadership, there was a failure of leadership at every level in this. Every last one of them is guilty in this process.
That's why we created our organization, Unity Partnership. You can go on the website, www.unitypartnership.org. It was because of Trayvon Martin and many others.
All right, everybody, I want you to go to rainbowpush.org so you can be part of the movement. We're going to continue this conversation here on Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. Stay right on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr.'s Facebook page. Getting some closing comments from everybody today. And I'm going to invite all of you to be on my show because it's a conversation that people want to have. We've got so many people who are watching today. People from Spain, from Egypt, from Puerto Rico. People want to know, Reverend, what are your thoughts about this? And where do we go from here? Because police violence is something that people deal with all over the world, whether it's interracial or intraracial. It's a culture, but it's also racism. There's a lot that's driving this, but it's a culture. Power, everybody. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And you got to be careful with power. Dad, you've always said you got to be careful not to use it, lest you use it and abuse it, because when you abuse it, you will lose it. We need our police officers to protect us. But when we don't trust them, they lose our faith, they lose credit, and we're unprotected because we don't trust them. And we don't respect them. Oh, boy. Everybody call us throughout the week at 773-FREEDOM, 773-FREEDOM at Rainbow Push. Got a lot to talk about and a lot of work to do as Reverend Jackson prepares to go down to Memphis, Tennessee to attend the homegoing service of Tyree Nichols. But what's next, everybody? Back with more of Keep Hope Alive in just a few minutes.
We'll have closing thoughts from Reverend Jesse Jackson right here on Keep Hope Alive.
Brad, did I get on your nerves today?
Well, he didn't. He said the right thing.
Visits involve skin and coat issues,
Yeah.
and 70%
I
of
used to
pet
go
immune
at
systems
it.
are based in their gut.
Yeah.
Dino
Reverend, he
Vite
said I go
nutritional
at it with
supplement
him.
has
Bless
key
his heart. I'm
nutrients for
like,
your
this is
pet's
good. This is great
digestive
radio.
tract.
Come on.
Reverend is saying something to you, Santita.
Reverend?
Santita?
Okay. I can hear you now.
Yeah, we're going to act on this.
Dad, your volume is too low.
The automatic weapon, that's deal here too. I think it was
Reverend.
Yeah.
Your volume is no. I got it, but his volume is too low. Just I need someone who's with him to adjust his phone.
You guys now saying that?
Yes.
The interracial intrigue of it. You got more attention than the other, all other that moves combined. About the race submission of this. 1980 just killed, really killed, like, this week. And the nation lost its interest in that for one black. And we don't want them to change the narrative of whites doing lynching. The black, we saw on TV, black, and lynching on television.
Well, they want to change the narrative on a lot of things, Reverend. I mean, including on the fact that part of the backdrop for this is that more people were killed by the police last year than ever before.
Yeah, and these guns, these crazy people out here, is out to kill the right people too.
Yeah.
And it's a wrong thing that's happening, period.
Everybody, you all can continue to talk. We're on Facebook Live, though, just so that you know.
I'm just so honored to be among the great ones that are on this call this morning. And I'm going to be on my way to church in about 10 minutes. But I just want to thank you, Santita, for giving us a platform to express ourselves and to let the communities know the work that we're trying to do out here. And I apologize to Reverend earlier for the fact that he is living his legacy. And while he's doing that, I don't want him to feel like his work has been in vain, that we're going to keep hope alive, and we're going to continue to come out here and stand for justice. And this is not going to deter us. We're going to push for legislation. And I hope, like I said before, that you share our information with these great panel participants so that we can all come together from Memphis all the way back up here to Illinois to stand for what's right.
Absolutely.
And then I was going to hear this dog.
Reverend,
They,
I need energy. Come on.
I just here. There ain't 2 million people.
What?
2 million people.
No. I need part of what Reverend has to do is slow down and speak very, very clearly. He doesn't need interpretation. When he slows down, you can hear him very clearly. Reverend, give it to me.
2 million people shot, 9 black people killed them. He became a hero.
Okay.
15 seconds.
Reverend, slow down. We're coming up. I'm going to get closing thoughts from a couple of people here because we need to do
10
that.
seconds.
Okay, and then I'm going to give you the closing thought. Reverend, get queued up for it, okay?
4, 3,
Thank you.
2, 1, you're live.
Closing thoughts, everybody. Hope to be with you. Hope you'll join me on my daily show. WCPT 820 is my home station, the largest progressive talk radio station in the country, AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota, and other places. The Santita Jackson Show from 6 to 8 Central Standard Time. We'll be talking about this issue and more tomorrow morning. Starting with you, Attorney Jay Bailey.
Thank you. First of all, I appreciate you having me on today. There's a lot of work to be done. I agree with just about everything that was said here today. But let me say this again. One of the issues that we're going to have to deal with as a community is this issue of self-hatred. Those officers were beating up on a person that looks just like them, that was about the same age as 3 of those officers. And to do so with no humanity, no feelings of, that they were beating up on a brother is just outrageous to me. The issue of qualified immunity is a real issue, but we also got to hold these guys accountable and criminally. I was glad that they were indicted, but I wonder if they would have been indicted had they been white officers. That's another question. But again, we're going to keep this conversation going. I appreciate everybody. I'm about to begin a broadcast at my church.
Well, I'll be calling all of you so I can get you on my show between tomorrow and the next day. Tennessee State Representative G.A. Hardaway, take it away. I've got 1 minute for you. Not even, like 30 seconds. Sorry.
Thank you very much. I'm going to say quickly that these guys and those like them, they bent the rules, they bent the law, they bent the Constitution until they finally broke it. And we've got to understand that our window for effecting change at this point, it's a small window, but we can squeeze through it. We've got things that we've got to do on the state level and the federal level.
5 seconds.
And I'm committed to do it.
Hey, stay right there. Going to get some closing thoughts here on here. He goes at 24, not 26. Okay.
Upcoming shows and guests, please visit our website at www.keephopealiveradio.com.
All right. I'm sorry. Representative Hardaway?
Yes, ma'am.
I wanted you to finish what you were saying, but before you do, I wanted to address Donald and his comment about letting Reverend speak. I'm put in a very uncomfortable position, having to correct my father, or having to even support him in this way. All of my life, I'm accustomed to him holding me up, even now. But he's not the only one who has Parkinson's in his family. My mother has it. I have it. Jesse has it. Johnny has it. Jackie has it. We all have it. When anyone in your family is vulnerable to anything, we're all bipolar. My brother is bipolar. He was diagnosed, but we all have it. So we all have to be trained by the physicians, and they tell us what we need to do. Reverend is one of the most gifted orators of the age, not of the century, but of modern times. And everybody recognizes him as such. We have gotten calls from all over the world to do whatever it is that we can do as a family to find help and to make sure that his voice is kept strong. Because he, at this time, is the elder statesman of our lifetime.
Yes, he is.
He is the adult in the room. My white friends, my black friends, my brown friends, my friends who are Asian, everybody, my indigenous friends from all over the world, they call, and all over this country, they say, we need you to help keep Reverend strong because we need his voice now more than ever.
Yeah.
So when I slow him down, it's because his doctors told me to do that. Lorraine understands it because Lorraine's mother has Parkinson's. She's one of my morning stars from my show. It is a challenge, but it's a challenge I'm willing to meet because I love my father. And more than that, I respect the work that he's done. Never expected him to live past 39, but God has more than doubled his years, and I'm grateful for that. And God has given him this time for a reason. And so I'm going to stop, not just as his daughter, but as the producer of this show. I want to have the highest quality show that we can have because very few people get a chance with his political perspective to have this space on the biggest radio network in the country.
Yeah.
So I'm going to push because I know what he's capable of.
Yes,
and I'm going to have him rest when I know he needs it so that he can live to fight another day. Because
he pops back like a daisy. Yeah. When they put that light on him, when they put that camera on him, I saw him. He pops up like a daisy.
Well, I'm going to tell you, when Ahmaud Arbery's lawyer said, do not have him come here, other civil rights leaders got Google searches that went up to 120,000. When they did the analytics on searches for Reverend, as soon as they called his name, you know how many searches they got for him? 19 million.
Wow. Yeah, see, one thing I'm glad you said that, Santita. As a doctor, I'm really glad you said that because your physical ability to say something has nothing to do with the content of your character and your soul. And he has been a civil rights leader, like bar none, that has done more for this country than anyone who's out there who is, oratorically speaking. It's more than just his connection to his physical self, it's his connection to God.
Absolutely.
Sir, I'm scared to mess out these people in the western suburbs when he showed up. He didn't have to say a word. If he just showed up, the room lit up.
And so I'm going to preserve that because I want people to understand that he is still here. And so I'm going to ask him, slow down, because I know when he slows down, he sounds clear as a bell. But I know how quickly his mind moves. And his mind's so moving 1,000,000 miles a minute, at least. And so Donald, I appreciate you, but it puts me in an uncomfortable position, and I have to be honest about it. But I'm going to do that because I want what's best for him.
Yeah.
So I appreciate everybody, but the doctors told us whenever you hear, you must correct because it helps him. And I'm going to do everything I can to help my father. I'm going to do that.
Santita, can I leave my phone number with everybody?
But not here. Just hold on. Let us get off Facebook Live. But I want everybody to get some closing thoughts. Is Reverend still on with us?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Reverend, what would you like to say?
What I'm saying now?
Yeah.
What I'm saying now is that he is born with, like, automatic voter registration for all Americans, fight student loan debt. His automatic was in Haiti and yes, up to because that's where they're throwing that project. First Nation in the hemisphere First Nation. Yet they have the risk like nothing. Right back.
Okay, Reverend, you were speaking very softly.
Well, I was just saying that, do remember I worked during the season. I continue to work during the season.
Reverend?
Yes.
Okay, I needed you to speak a little louder, a little more clearly. Okay.
Okay. You hear me?
Now I can, yes.
Tomorrow morning we're going to launch Channel 5 or something. We got to deal with the matter here at home. Yes, I talk abroad, but there's the street, the inmates in the streets in Chicago. Just share this.
Okay, Reverend, you've been up since very early this morning. I want you to get some rest.
4 o'clock.
Of course, love you. And State Representative Hardaway, please take care of Reverend when he gets down there. Please do that.
Consider it done.
Absolutely. But you tell what's next. I'm gonna reach out to you to see if I can get you on my show tomorrow or the next day. What is next? I mean, because we've seen the video and we're only seeing parts of it now. Now we have other people telling us about, I mean, I think that it's like they're waiting for some kind of riot or something. And we're those of us who, and I said on my show on Friday, I said, look, whoever starts the riot is a saboteur. I said, because
Absolutely.
that is not what we do.
People are too brokenhearted for that, Santee.
Yeah.
We've been worn out by this. People are too brokenhearted for that. We had to process this first.
But also, Ms. Brent, the history of the nonviolent civil rights movement crafted by Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, that is not what we do. You always find that the person who started the riot was paid by the police or the government.
Exactly.
And we have to call them out on that.
Yeah.
Well, Santito, let me speak to that in Memphis. The young people who organized the protest, I'll call some first names. I don't want to do last names because we got nuts out there.
Okay.
But Amber and Antonio and Kedron and Theron, and there are others, they come to us with a background of organizing that they learned through the political system. Some are young Democrats, through the labor and union movement. Some are involved in labor activity, organizing. Those are the folks that we need to give them credit for how they organized, made sure that they could keep the marshals, the adequate marshals around to keep the crowd and the protesters orderly, and to keep those who were trying to infiltrate out of there. So we want to give proper nod to those young organizers, the young folks who we used to be. They've learned, and once again, Reverend Jackson, you need to be proud of your legacy, because we pass that on through our generation to that generation. So I want to make sure we appreciate them. And Santita, to your question about what's next, I can tell you what's next this evening. I'll be sitting down with Jay Bailey and some of the other legal minds, and we'll be crafting a letter to the Department of Justice in a formal request for the patterns and practices review of the Memphis Police Department. And the rest of that stuff that you heard about, well, we're going to hire a consultant to come in and tell us what went wrong with the Scorpion unit. You don't have to hire them. We ain't paying no more tax dollars for you to go hire a consultant to tell us what you want them to tell us. You know what's wrong with the Scorpion unit. The same thing that was wrong with that version of the Scorpion unit in Atlanta that had to be dismantled. So we don't want to be snookered and Ramsey said we know what we're doing. And we know that it takes a federal government with that power and with that arm's length relationship to make things happen for Black folks in terms of civil rights in America. But I'm going to end on a little softer note. I want to make sure that we extend words of comfort and care to the family of young Tyre Nichols. Any words are woefully inadequate to address the pain and the sorrow that they're feeling, but I want them to know that we're going to respect, we're going to make sure that we honor his memory by moving forward with changes. We're going to make sure that we respect his memory and respect the family by exercising our right responsibly if we choose to protest in the street. And with that said, there's only one other thing I'd like to do, and that's and this is a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Returning hate for hate multiplies hate, adding deeper darkness to a night already devoid of stars. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Reverend Jackson, and thank you to everyone who made this opportunity possible.
Well, I mean, it's a privilege for Reverend to allow me to do what I do on this platform to assist him in getting these voices out, because this is really his idea. He wants you to be heard, which is why, we have you here, because in corporate media, we don't hear you. But heaven knows you've got a lot to say and you've got the solutions. And that is what we want to hear. Let me see who out. Do we have you, Wisconsin State Senator Lena Taylor?
You do. And one of the things that you asked earlier was whether or not, there's a will to do what needs to be done. And I'm just here to say, in my state, I would hope that there was a will, but my experience has been there is not. It does not stop us from still pressing and trying to make change happen. But that is why I will say that federally, we need to see action. And although I do respect that something happening federally for qualified immunity mostly will address federally what happens, but because of task force and partnerships that exist with police departments and the federal government, it will allow the 1,100 task force partnerships that exist to be able to touch police forces across the nation. So I'm just of the belief system, after 20 years of being a legislator, that every little step we can take is worth a step.
Okay. I mean, let me see. Let me see the screen. I'm sorry. Let me see who else. Okay, Dr. Arnold, what would you like to proffer? I mean, and while we still have State Representative Hardaway here, I mean, what you saw the first iteration of the tape, and I think that's part of the reason we don't see it again, because the first time you play it, you see everything. You said, what about the white police officer who was with them at the beginning?
Yeah.
Well, the sheriff and everybody else too. I'm sorry.
No, it's a free flowing conversation. I mean, because I'd like to know what.
Well, that's a good question. Excellent question. And we've asked it of the police chief. We've asked it of the mayor. The people of Memphis, Shelby County, and those who are watching this around the world deserve to have an answer. Not only that one officer, but the rest of the 9 or 10 who attended at some point and were standing around, either observing or indirectly, from what we can tell, either failing to intervene or failing to deliver aid. So there's more to be told to this story. We expect truth. The only way we can have truth is to have transparency. The only way that we can have trust is to have truth and transparency. And I tell you that no law enforcement officer can do his job, no law enforcement agency can do its job without the trust and cooperation from the citizens that they're sworn to protect and serve.
Amen.
Yeah, one of the things on that also is that, we have legislation, we have laws, we have rules, and we have, law enforcement that's out there, but criminals act as criminals. They don't care about the laws or the rules or the legislation. What they care about is being a criminal. We need to stop criminals from joining the force. Yeah. And because, every time we turn around and we see another person, another black man, another black woman laying on the concrete bleeding to death, and a response is good, to have all this response and talk about this stuff and do it, great. But stop the person from getting killed. And the only way to do that is to have the correct leadership. There's a lack of leadership in the police department. The people who are supposed to be in control and command of those departments are not doing their job. They should have been fired before on their first offense. And I'm sure they've been there for 3 to 6 years. They should have been fired day one. They got to hit taking oaths. Even in the federal government, we all take oaths. On the first day of office, you have to take an oath to defend the country, right? And that oath, most people can't even pass a national citizenship test. Only 1 in 3 Americans can get 6 out of 10 questions right. That's a 60% pass rate, and 100 questions that are actually published online. How can you take an oath to a country you don't even know? How can you take an oath to civics you don't have? How can you take an oath to morals you don't have? We need to make sure that the selection process for these officers are much more stringent and are fully enforced. And the people who are there, we need a public referendum on the agenda in legislation for rules of engagement for police officers in this country, all across the country. And I had to have rules of engagement when I was in war. As someone was mentioning earlier, they were acting like they were in combat. Why do I have to have rules of engagement for enemy combatant in a foreign nation, but I don't have that? That same rule does not apply to the law enforcement that's supposed to be serving and protecting me. And the doctor is right. Not only do you have rules of engagement cited, but the Geneva Convention also defines what a war criminal is, and what these road cops are doing to the citizens is defined as war criminal activity.
They should look at those field training officers as well.
Yes. It doesn't matter how good your policy is, how detailed your policy is, if you don't have the right personnel hired to execute it. And the doctor was right that we've got to make sure that we're hiring the right people. We need those psychological evaluations. We need to know how these folks are, whether they have emotional stability, the mental capacity, before we hire them. Otherwise, we're gambling with the lives of the citizens of Memphis, Shelby County, and wherever we are in America.
So, Representative, one of the things that we have to do is have some kind of ongoing process also, because even when people come on the force, because of the kinds of traumas and things that they experience, there needs to be ongoing and kind of ways for them to rotate in their process for some de-escalation, for some, decompression to happen when they're out there, and services for them in regards to mental health services or whatever you want to call it, services, in order to be able to see other signs that happen along the way. Also, because the test, before they come on the force, yes, sir, is important, but also to maintain is important so that we can hopefully decertify some individuals in the process.
Senator Taylor, as Unity Partnership, we're trying to focus on desegregating the white police departments out here in the western suburbs. And by doing that, we're going to focus this year on trying to get prerequisite law enforcement classes implemented in the high schools during the junior and the senior year, so that we can diversify these forces out here. But you see, it goes against the grain when you see something like we just saw in Memphis, because that's exactly what they say to us. They'll say, well, they can't pass the test, or they got a bad record, or they may be corrupted coming from one police department in the city out here to the suburbs. But we are trying to do that, and we look forward to working towards getting that achieved and accomplished.
Well, that's why you all have to talk to each other across state lines and across county lines.
That's right.
Because we're all dealing with the same issues. That's why, having State Representative Hardaway and State Senator Taylor on is so vital, because this is what we elect them to do. And so we actually have people in these legislatures now who can advocate for our position. And that's why I'm saying, that I think that's why I tried to make that point earlier, State Representative Hardaway. So I'm like, no, I need you right there, right now. I need Lena Taylor where she is right now. Because hold on, because they're the ones who get in that big meeting, Reverend. You talk and lead the fight. That's why when Reverend ran for president, at the highest levels, he was absolutely advocating and would not back down.
Yes. And see, we got with Senator Sims from downstate, and we pushed the body cams. And lo and behold, the police departments out here were all for it, because they have corrupted cops. Some of them do have bad behavior problems, and they want to get rid of them. So by getting those body cams, it not only saved the life of the community, but it also saved their jobs. Because if you're doing right, the camera will reflect that, and that's what happened. That's what happened with Tyree. Those guys with their body cams, you couldn't see much of anything because they had him down on the ground and they were blocking the view from the body cams.
But I want to know what that other guy is.
But that's the point. You're right about body cams, but we also have to have the direct conversation that even when we go through that and we go through all the fights we went to get body cams, because it wasn't easy for us here, then the picture from the cam isn't right. They don't turn it on right. They don't release it in time.
That's right.
I think there's just so many other components that happen even with that. In the end, what this really boils down to is we cannot legislate morality. We cannot legislate to appreciate humanity. We cannot legislate for you not to abuse your power. And in the end, the blue wall of silence, which is officers not speaking and saying nothing, and the need for them to be trained to de-escalate so that becomes more of a priority. Like, those things are important, but in the end, everybody don't even believe in God, but I need them just to get some Jesus or something.
Oh yeah, well, ma'am, let me tell you something.
Like what we
where those 5 police officers thought they were black, they got with blue, and they with the blue line, they're going to find out that you're black, because there's going to be an expedient, I believe, justification for having a quick trial, and they're going to find out real soon that you are not blue, you are black, and you had no right to take that boy's life just because they made a mistake and sprayed themselves. They got mad because when they used that spray and it backfired on him, he got away. Well, I've been telling our people out here, do not run from the police. But I'm not sure about that now. I'm not sure, because that boy knew if he get up and run and get away, maybe, just maybe, he could make it home to his mother. And that didn't happen. They killed him anyway.
We all know that.
And there's one thing about that too, is that, when you look at the issue, and someone said it earlier about, the payoff, giving people money and trying to sweep it under the rug. And what I'm hoping doesn't happen, because we were talking about this, is that, with these 5 police officers being so quickly convicted and, they're going to serve their time in jail and all that kind of stuff, that it doesn't take away the momentum behind addressing that police department. And that the mechanisms and the leadership structure and what they actually did, they allowed them to do that. And it's really ironic that a camera caught. It was a police camera that was
The
overhead
street
camera
light camera. The street light camera caught it.
that was supposed to be detected criminals in the police force. And, you know, it's just ironic that was the thing that really caught them. And Santita, you were talking before about, you know, why isn't it that, you know, people aren't rioting and all that kind of thing? It's because we're so used to looking at this through a racial lens, and we're so used to white police beating us down. And this just caught us. We're all shocked. We're still in shock. We have black people killing our own people.
I'm not shocked.
Well, I think that's part of what helped to keep our demonstrations peaceful. But I'm not going to minimize the effect that the comments and the requests coming directly from the family, and the way that the mother asked that we honor the memory of her son, the way the father asked that.
Hello?
I didn't know this was for the phone.
Oh, okay. Hello? Ooh, I think we cut everybody off.
No,
We didn't?
It's still there.
yeah.
Well, this is some of the same group that closed the bridge, the Mississippi River Bridge between Memphis and Arkansas, closed it down previously. So we are talking about young folks who are like we were back in the day. And the advantage that they have now, someone mentioned it earlier, they are protesting for justice, but they have another tool in place. Us, the legislators, we're in position to advocate and to legislate and to provide oversight to those agencies that are necessary in order to deliver justice for the family of young Tyree and for other young black men whose names won't be called, who have endured some of the same type of brutal attacks from rogue officers. Those who seem to reach that level of blue rage in a minute.
We need to be as adamant as the January 6th were when they went to Washington, D.C. You see, when we stop marching, we don't go to the boardroom. We need to get to Washington, D.C. and put the pressure on these people to do it. And whoever put that together or try to coordinate or need some help, please let me know. Because that's what it's going to take. Not to go there and kill or rob or any of that, cause chaos. We need to go there and show up and be there and force this man's hand to sign this bill.
Well, we've proven in Memphis that we can lead the efforts for peaceful protest. And I salute and give them their due. Again, the organizers were young folk, and they were able to pull it off. And because of that, we've seen not only the effects and the educational aspect of it in Memphis and Shelby County, but nationally and around the world.
And they voted.
The folks in place to make justice possible.
And that's why it's so important.
And we have to
people to the office.
Absolutely.
I would like to make a closing statement because I have to leave.
Very quickly.
But my website is www.unitypartnership.org. My email address is Regina, REGINA, Brent, BRENT, at unitypartnership.org. I'm going to say that Mamie had to watch Emmett Till, and Geneva had to watch Sandra Bland. Mrs. Tyree Nichols had to look at Tyree. We better get involved, especially black mothers need to get involved.
Well, you know, I'd say black mothers and fathers. You know, because it is.
We got black fathers out here that are involved.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying, you know, together. I'm especially sensitive to that because I see how black fathers are marginalized, and I've had a father who's been so involved. You know, but he's not the only one. I had Uncle St. Clair Booker, who didn't have any biological children, but he loved us as if we were his own. I mean, I have had the blessing of black men who protect me from the grave. And black women are not standing alone. They're not. Our black men, Mrs. Tyree's mother has a husband who would not let her watch the rest of that tape. He said, I'm going to protect you. I don't want you to see this. I'll watch it. He's got a broken heart today. No one's talking about him. His heart's broken. He's bleeding from the inside. And so while we're looking at her, we need to look at him, because as his stepfather, he was his father and has raised him. That's his daddy. He lost a child too.
I heard these guys were frat brothers.
Well,
is that true?
I don't know, but I do know that Tyree had a daddy. And I want us to acknowledge his mother and his father and the broken hearts that that family has today. And what are we going to do about it? Trayvon Martin had a daddy, not just a mom.
Yeah.
These are not, your mom is not an amoeba who split and had you.
Yeah.
You know?
But that's who he called out for, Santita, because that's from that biblical court. That's who George Floyd called out.
Oh, I
because
understand.
it's from the biblical court. I'm just saying.
No, I'm in agreement with you. I was just making another point.
I know.
Because I'm very sensitive to it. Because people come to me all the time and they say, your mother did such a good job. I said, my father get the lights on. What are you talking about?
And one thing that the black man, can I say something, Santita?
Yeah.
Santita, about this, is that as a black man, these are black men laying on the ground who are dying.
Yeah.
And to even demoralize the board to say that you can't stand up to help to protect yourself and to marginalize black men, it goes even further into the racist ideology that black men are worthless and that have no power and no control. So we have got to stand together as black men and women and stop this slavery division that they did. Pull us apart.
So I had 11 brothers. And my father was the apple of my eye. And so I said, I have a son. He's 51 years old. He served his country. And I'm worried. I'm worried.
I got you. Trust me, I got you. And I mean, you're worried. And it's the black fathers and mothers who have to talk with their children. I guess I'm only saying, not to diminish anyone's point.
Oh, no.
As someone who, I mean, if black families were together, people would not have the space, would not make us killable.
No.
They would not have the space to come after us.
Yes.
So we have to, it's just like The Color Purple. I mean, when they said, look, if you had protected Miss Seeley, oh, wait a minute, whatever Oprah Winfrey's character was, white folks never would have got her.
Well, like Senator Lena just said about God. There's a God, and Ephesians 5 tell us about the household. And where we're lacking in a lot of those areas, it does not negate the fact that we're still citizens.
That's
right. We built this country. We should be treated equally. And I don't care what their race is. We have a right to life and a healthy one.
That's right.
Life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness.
Well, yeah.
It's written in. Part of our guiding laws. And I want to speak to, if I can, the participation of men.
Yeah.
And someone asked specifically about whether they were in a fraternity. That fraternity, I'm not going to call the name, but that fraternity responded and said they were, but they aren't financial, and they don't want to claim them. And I think it brings us back to the point that law enforcement officers are from all walks of life. They live next door to us. They're our cousins, our daddies, our brothers. So we have to understand that they are not going to be perfect, but we need to weed out with pre-employment, psychological examinations, and mental evaluations, make sure they have emotional stability that will suit them for the job. This job ain't for everybody, and everybody ain't for this job. So until we can get that right, using some of the new technology that it's accessible, available to us now, they're using it on the federal level with some of the federal law enforcement agencies to determine when they've got agents who are on the edge and could be triggered and be detrimental to the mission. So we've got that available to us. Let's use it. We can't afford to keep sending out folks who are dangerous to themselves and dangerous to the citizens that they're that took an oath to protect and serve.
Absolutely.
And sir, I'm proud of the partners out here, the law enforcement partners that I'm working with out here in the western suburbs. I'm proud of the state's attorneys. However, they went in and they put a brick on the no carriage bill, and they put a brick on the sheriffs out here talking about they're not going to adhere to the law regarding the assault weapons ban. But you know what? They respect us enough out here to call me when Tyree was killed to say, Regina, this will never happen out here. And I can assure you that. But you can't assure me that because you don't know what you got on your force. And you don't know who we're really dealing with until things happen.
No, but these folks, you know, honestly, I think they do know. But they have a culture. They know. They know. They have a culture that promotes this wickedness, and it needs to stop. And as for that fraternity that shall remain nameless, they shouldn't disclaim them. They should reclaim them and heal them. That's what brotherhood and sisterhood is about.
Well, what I hear from it is that your daddy would be on their head if it was any part of his fraternity. That's what I'm hearing.
Well, what he would do, let me tell you how Reverend does things. There's an old African proverb about about someone in the community who would commit a crime and who would violate someone in the community. They would put that person in the middle of the village, and the whole village comes out and walks around them and tells them everything good about themselves for hours. See, I believe in redeeming people. I'm going to try. Just, you know, I mean, Omega Psi Phi can't just claim Reverend when he is an icon. He had to get there. And everybody else. And we're all on this pilgrim journey. Ain't nobody perfect. And we're all capable of doing all of that. And we need to be very clear on that. Because power corrupts people. And absolute power corrupts everybody. They didn't say just you, it's everybody. Yes,
They also talk about forgiveness, Santita, but I'm not there. I'm sorry.
I personally need to ask for it. There's a whole lot of steps to that. Reverend, why don't you say something before I got to go?
Don't put due process on recess.
What?
Don't put due process on recess.
Amen.
I love it.
That's what I mean. You can understand them, right? Okay.
Oh, Reverend, can I use that?
Yeah, take it.
That they spend due process. They become judge, jury, and all that.
Wow.
Well, Reverend, that's why I need you to get your rest so you can say that, because you need to say that again.
All right, bye-bye.
Oh, you leaving me now? Okay.
I'm getting ready to go, but Santita, Reverend, and you all, we have a mutual friend who was who's passed on. Her name was Joella Stevenson.
Did she? Oh my goodness.
Her daughter told me to tell you and Reverend hello.
We love her.
Yes.
We love her. We love her and always will.
Yes, I know. You take care of yourself. Thank you for having me on. It was an honor and a pleasure to hear everybody. And please do stay in touch. And you're rocking that hat, girl.
Oh, look, I'm cold. You don't know how cold it is in here. I'm wearing this down coat. Oh my God.
Yeah, get out of there. Get out of there. I'm off to church and I'll be praying for all of you and ourselves. Thank you so much.
Reverend, what do you need?
Israel is give me a call this week.
Oh, Miss Brent?
Yes.
Can you have, I'm going to send you Reverend's number, a couple of numbers for him. Please have Miss Stevens' daughter to give Dad a call this week, and my mother.
I told him I would when I saw him at the country club not long ago, but I will do that. I don't know if I should pass it on or not, but I will.
No, please do.
Text it to me, okay? I got one of his numbers, but just text it to me.
Okay, I love you all.
All right?
I
love you too. Take care. Bye now.
State Representative Hardaway, you are the best.
God bless you, everybody.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to call you because I want to get you on my show between 7 and 8 tomorrow, Tuesday, or whenever you can do it.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be with you today, and I'm looking forward to sharing with our friends around the country, around the world, about not just what the problem is, but how to and what the path is for a solution.
Well, thank you for that. We need that.
Representative Hardaway, they have a powerful person in your area. It's called Representative Hardaway. I'm glad you're in the legislature.